Welcome to Sci-Fi Galactic Tales, your portal to thrilling adventures across the cosmos. Please listen to the complete story, and if you love it, subscribe the channel and share with friends. Of course, hit the notification bell icon to get alerts for our next episodes and latest tales. It was a cold, quiet day on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, and the crew of the SS Odyssey was getting ready for what was supposed to be a routine mission. The stars outside the ship's windows twinkled, but there was something about Europa that made Alex Carter, the captain, feel uneasy. The place was always so silent, so isolated. "All right, team, we got our orders. We're here to study the ice, take some samples, and make our way back. Simple, right?" Alex S.A. flirted, trying to sound upbeat, but the crew could see through his attempt at cheerfulness. They had all been through missions before, and everyone knew there was always something unexpected when it came to space exploration. Dr. Zoe Lee, the ship scientist, was at the control panel, eyes glued to the screen as she ran the last checks. Her fingers moved quickly across the console. "Everything looks good," she said, but her voice didn't sound as confident as usual. Zoe had spent her career studying the unknown, but even she couldn't ignore the creeping sense of tension in the air. The team had been to Europa before, but this time, something was different. "We're about to land, Captain," Zoe called out, her tone calm but with a hint of curiosity. Alex nodded, gripping the control panel a little tighter. As the Odyssey descended through Europa's thick ice clouds, there was no telling what they might find beneath the frozen surface. The ship's engines hummed quietly, and the ship slowly drifted closer to the landing zone. Outside, the landscape below was a vast, cold, barren wasteland of ice and rock. It had always been believed to be empty, but there was something in the air that didn't sit right with Alex. The ship's landing gear made a soft crunch as it touched down on the icy surface. The team unstrapped their harnesses and got ready to disembark. "All right, everyone, stay alert," Alex warned. "We don't know what we're dealing with here." The crew gathered their equipment and stepped out onto the surface of Europa, their boots sinking slightly into the thick ice. The sky above was a dull gray, and there was no sound except for the faint hum of their life support systems. The ground was still, untouched, and eerie. "Something doesn't feel right," Zoe muttered, her voice breaking the silence. She was scanning the ice with her handheld scanner, her eyes narrowing in confusion. "Captain, you might want to see this." Alex walked over, his heart racing. The scanner was picking up something unusual, something buried beneath the surface. It wasn't just ice and rock. There was a pattern, a structure, hidden under the ice. "What is that?" Alex asked, pointing at the readings on the screen. The patterns were too precise to be natural. Could it be an alien structure? Zoe's voice was steady, but there was uncertainty in her words. "Maybe, but it's buried deep. We'll need to dig." The crew set to work, drilling into the ice to uncover whatever was hidden beneath. The drill whirred loudly as it cut through the thick ice, and the tension was thick in the air. Suddenly, with a loud pop, the drill broke through, revealing a dark, metallic surface. Alex's heart skipped a beat. What they had uncovered was not natural. It was something built, something alien. "Get the lights," Alex ordered. The crew shone their flashlights down into the hole, revealing a massive door, cold and silent, lying beneath the ice. It was old, its surface covered in strange symbols and markings. "Is this really happening?" James Shaw, the engineer, asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "This can't be real." "It's real," Alex said quietly, his voice steady but filled with awe. "This changes everything. We need to open it." As the crew worked together to figure out how to open the door, a strange feeling washed over them. They had been trained for the unexpected, but this was beyond anything they could have ever imagined. Something was waiting for them beneath the ice, and they were about to uncover the first clue to humanity's place in the universe. The crew stood around the door, their flashlights casting eerie shadows on the icy walls. Everyone's breath came in shallow gasps, visible in the cold air. Alex Carter, the captain, stood in front of the metallic door, his heart pounding in his chest. "We've come this far," he said, his voice calm but steady, trying to mask the tension building inside him. "We're opening it." Zoe Lee, the ship scientist, was fiddling with the console, trying to get a response from the door. The strange symbols and markings that covered its surface seemed to glow faintly in the light. "There's something here," Zoe muttered, her fingers moving over the ancient symbols. "It's like a language, but it's not like anything I've seen before." "Do you think it's a message?" James Shaw, the engineer, asked, his voice tinged with both excitement and fear. He had been working on the ship's machinery for years, but had never encountered anything like this. "I don't know," Zoe replied. "But these symbols are definitely not random. They mean something." She paused, looking up at Alex. "If we can just decipher this, we might be able to open it." Captain Alex Carter stepped forward, his breath catching as he studied the strange door. He had always known there was something out there, something bigger than humanity's understanding, but seeing it up close made the reality hit him. "Do it," he said. "We have no idea what we're dealing with, but we can't back down now." Zoe nodded and pressed a series of buttons on the panel. The door didn't move at first, but then there was a low hum, followed by a loud click. Everyone froze. The door slowly creaked open, revealing a dark hallway stretching deep into the heart of the structure. The temperature seemed to drop even further as they stepped closer to the opening. "Should we go in?" James asked, looking at Alex. His face was pale, but his eyes were filled with curiosity. Alex hesitated, glancing around at his crew. There was no turning back now. "We have to. Whatever's in there, we need to find out. For humanity." The crew gathered their courage and stepped into the darkness. The hallway was narrow, and the walls were lined with more of the strange symbols. The air was cold and thick with dust, but there was an almost magnetic pull to the place. Every step they took felt like a step into history. As they walked further, the hallway seemed to stretch on endlessly, and the silence was deafening. Suddenly, they reached a large, open room. The walls of the chamber were covered in carvings, depicting strange creatures and far-off galaxies. In the center of the room was a massive stone pedestal, and on top of it lay a strange device. It was unlike anything they had seen before, sleek and metallic, with wires that seemed to pulse with a faint blue glow. "What is that?" Zoe whispered, stepping forward cautiously. "I don't know," Alex said, his voice barely audible. "But it's not like anything we have. I think it's a message from whoever built this place." The device suddenly hummed to life, the blue glow growing brighter. The crew jumped back, startled. The room filled with a soft, eerie voice, speaking in a language none of them understood. It was almost as if the device was trying to communicate with them, but in a way that was beyond their comprehension. "What is it saying?" James asked, his voice trembling. "I don't know," Zoe replied, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. "But I think it's trying to show us something. We need to figure out how to decode it." As the voice continued to speak, the room seemed to pulse with energy, and the symbols on the walls began to glow in time with the sound. Alex felt his heart race. This was more than just a discovery, it was a warning. But from what? And why was it here, buried deep beneath the ice? "Everyone, stay sharp," Alex said, his voice firm. "We need to get this information back to the ship. This might be the most important thing we've ever found." The crew nodded, their minds spinning with possibilities. They didn't know what was in store for them next, but one thing was clear. They had just uncovered something that could change the fate of humanity, and they were about to learn just how far-reaching the consequences of their discovery could be. The crew stood around the glowing device, their eyes wide with curiosity and fear. The eerie voice from the machine still echoed in the air, filling the chamber with an unsettling hum. Captain Alex Carter took a step closer, his heart racing. He wasn't sure what the device was saying, but he knew it was important. "How do we stop this?" Zoe Lee asked, her voice trembling slightly. She had been working with alien technology for years, but nothing like this had ever come across her path. The device seemed to be alive, its pulse matching the rhythmic sound of the strange language. "We don't stop it," Alex replied, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "We figure out what it's telling us. We need to understand it before it's too late." He turned to his crew. "Prepare for anything. I have a bad feeling about this." Zoe nodded, but there was a look of doubt in her eyes. "I'll try to analyze the symbols around the room," she said. "Maybe they can give us a clue about what the device is trying to communicate." As Zoe worked, Alex turned his attention to the pedestal the device rested on. The metal surface seemed smooth and cold, but the blue light pulsed more brightly now, almost as if it were trying to get their attention. The room was filled with a strange tension, the air thick with an energy that seemed to press against them. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the chamber. The floor beneath their feet began to shake, and dust fell from the ceiling. The crew exchanged worried glances, and James Shaw stepped back, his hand gripping the edge of the pedestal for balance. "What's happening?" he asked, his voice panicked. "I don't know," Alex said, his eyes scanning the room. "It's the device. It's activating something." He turned to Zoe. "How's the translation going?" Zoe's fingers flew over her tablet, her eyes scanning the symbols on the walls. I think it's a map," she said, her voice filled with awe. "But it's not a map of this planet. It's showing different places, distant stars, galaxies even. And there's something at the center, something that's glowing brighter than anything else." She paused, her brow furrowing. "It's like the device is guiding us somewhere. But where?" Before Alex could respond, the walls of the chamber began to vibrate. The symbols on the walls seemed to shift and rearrange themselves, almost like they were alive, responding to the device's activation. The humming voice grew louder, and for a moment, Alex could have sworn the walls themselves were speaking to him. "We have to move," Alex said, his voice urgent. "If we stay here, we might get trapped." He turned to his crew. "Zoe, keep working on that translation. James, help me get this device to the ship." James nodded and moved quickly to the pedestal. "Got it," he said, lifting the device with ease despite its size. "But whatever this thing is, we have no idea how it works." "I know," Alex said, glancing back at the door. "But we can't stay here. We need to get back to the ship. We need to figure out how to use this device before it's too late." The crew hurried out of the chamber, their footsteps echoing in the narrow hallways. The hum from the device seemed to follow them, growing louder with each step. As they approached the entrance, Alex's mind raced. The device was connected to something larger, something far beyond their understanding. The map Zoe had discovered wasn't just a map, it was a guide, and it was pointing them to something far more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. As the crew made their way back to the ship, the sense of urgency only grew. They were no longer just explorers. They were now holding the key to something that could change the fate of humanity. And they had no idea what kind of power they were dealing with. Alex looked back at the darkened tunnel behind them, the unknown stretching out like a vast, endless void. What had they just uncovered? And who, or what, had left this message for them? The questions burned in his mind, but he knew one thing for sure. They had just set off a chain of events that could never be undone. The crew finally reached the ship, their hearts pounding in their chests. The strange device still hummed in James' arms, its blue light flickering rhythmically like a heartbeat. Alex felt a rush of adrenaline as they hurried up the ship's ramp and into the control room. They didn't have much time. Whatever they had just triggered in that chamber was beyond anything they'd ever faced before, and it was clear they were now part of something much bigger than themselves. "Zoe, I need you to keep analyzing the device," Alex said as he slammed his hand on the control panel. The lights on the ship blinked to life, and the hum of the engines filled the air. "We need to know what this map is showing. If it's a guide, we need to know where it's leading us. Give me answers." Zoe sat down quickly at her console, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "I'm on it, Captain," she said, her voice steady but with a hint of nervousness. The map they had seen earlier still lingered in her mind. It wasn't just a star map. It was a map with coordinates that led to something. She just wasn't sure what. James set the device down on a nearby table and watched as Zoe worked. "This is crazy," he muttered under his breath. "We're following a map from an alien civilization, and we have no idea what we're walking into." Alex nodded grimly. "I know, but we don't have a choice. That thing in the chamber, it's part of something much bigger. We've just opened a door to a new chapter in our history, and we need to be ready for whatever comes next." As Zoe continued her work, the tension in the room grew. The ship's control panels lit up with strange symbols, matching the ones they had seen in the ruins. Every second felt heavier, like the weight of the unknown was pressing down on them. Finally, Zoe looked up from her screen, her face pale. "It's connected," she said, her voice filled with disbelief. "The map, it's not just showing us a star system. It's showing us the location of something massive. A structure, a place we need to go there. Where exactly?" James asked, leaning over her shoulder. Zoe pointed to the screen, where a red circle was marked around a specific star system. "Right here. This system, it's not like any other. I've run every scan, cross-referenced every database. This place doesn't exist on any map, but this device, it's pointing to it. It's alive." Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. "Alive." Zoe nodded, her eyes wide. "Yes, the energy readings coming from this place are unlike anything we've seen before. It's almost like the entire star system is pulsating. It's as if it's waiting for us." The silence that followed was heavy. Alex could feel the weight of her words settling in the room. They weren't just on a routine mission anymore. They were heading to a place no one had ever dared to go, to a place that held answers to questions no one had even thought to ask. "We can't ignore this," Alex finally said, breaking the tension. "Prepare the ship for launch. We're heading to that star system." As the crew began to work, the ship hummed with life, its engines roaring to life. Alex took one last look at the device. He didn't fully understand what it was, but he knew it was important. It was their only lead, and they couldn't waste it. "Zoe, keep monitoring the device," Alex said, his voice firm. "We need all the information we can get. James, you're with me on the bridge. Let's see where this thing takes us." The crew moved quickly, their focus sharp as they prepared for the next phase of their journey. The unknown stretched before them, and they were about to dive headfirst into a mystery that would change everything. As the ship soared into the vast expanse of space, the crew knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Whatever awaited them in that distant star system, they were ready. The future was waiting, and they were going to find it. The Odyssey drifted silently through the void, its engines humming steadily as the crew prepared for what lay ahead. As the ship neared the mysterious star system, Alex stood on the bridge, watching the stars outside. His heart raced with anticipation, but there was a nagging feeling in his gut that wouldn't go away. The map they had seen, the symbols, the strange energy readings, it all pointed to something monumental. Something that could change everything. "Everything's ready, Captain," Zoe's voice broke through his thoughts. She stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the console. "We're about to enter the system. The readings are still off the charts. Whatever's out there, it's closer now." Alex nodded, trying to ignore the uneasy feeling that lingered. "Good. Let's get closer. We need to know what we're dealing with." James entered the bridge, his face tight with concern. "Captain, I've been going over the data again. The closer we get, the more intense the energy readings are. This system, it's not just a place. It's like something is waking up." Alex turned to look at him, his brow furrowing. "Waking up? What do you mean?" "I don't know," James said, shaking his head. "But the readings are getting stronger. It's almost like the system is aware of us." A chill ran down Alex's spine. "What does that mean for us?" "Not sure yet," James replied. "But we need to be cautious. If this is a trap, we don't want to walk right into it. Zoe stepped up to the controls, her fingers moving quickly over the panels. We're almost there, Captain. If we're going in, now's the time. Alex took a deep breath and gave a firm nod. Proceed. The ship moved closer, and the stars began to shift. Ahead of them, a massive object appeared in the distance. At first, it looked like a small, but as they got closer, it grew larger and larger, revealing itself to be a massive structure. It was enormous, towering above everything around it. It seemed to pulse with energy, and the surface shimmered with an iridescent glow. Is that what we've been searching for? Zoe whispered, her voice filled with awe. It has to be, Alex said, his eyes glued to the screen. The structure was unlike anything they had ever seen before. It was a blend of smooth, dark stone and metallic surfaces, with strange markings and glowing lines running through it. It looked ancient, yet alive, as if it had been waiting for them. James walked up behind them, his voice filled with disbelief. How is something like this even possible? This doesn't look like any technology we know. Maybe it's not, Alex said quietly. Maybe it's something different. The crew was silent as the ship continued its approach. The tension in the air was palpable. Every member of the crew had their eyes locked on the structure, each of them wondering the same thing. What was this place? And why had they been brought here? As the Odyssey got closer, the structure grew larger, filling the view screen entirely. The ship's sensors began to beep loudly, warning them of the intense energy emanating from the object. We need to get closer, Alex said, but we need to be careful. We don't know what this thing could do. Zoe worked quickly, adjusting the ship's course and making fine-tuned calculations. The ship inched closer, the energy readings growing stronger. The crew could feel the weight of the moment bearing down on them. They were about to uncover something that could change everything. Finally, they reached the surface of the massive structure. It loomed in front of them, the mystery surrounding it growing thicker. It was then that they saw it, a massive door embedded in the structure, a perfect circle with glowing symbols surrounding it. Is that a door? James asked, his voice shaking. It looks like it, Alex replied, but it's not like any door we've seen before. Zoe studied the symbols on the door, her fingers flying over her console. It's like the symbols from the ruins. They match. The realization hit them all at once. The door, the structure, everything, it was a part of the same network. This was what had been calling to them. The map, the signal, the energy readings, it was all connected. What now? James asked, his eyes wide with excitement and fear. We go inside, Alex said, his voice steady. We find out what's waiting for us. The crew exchanged nervous glances, but there was no turning back now. They had come this far. It was time to uncover the truth of the stars. The Odyssey slowly hovered in front of the massive door. The ship's engines hummed quietly as the crew prepared to step into the unknown. The door in front of them was unlike anything they had seen before. It was covered with strange, glowing symbols, pulsing as if it were alive. Alara's heart raced with excitement and fear. This was it, the moment they had been waiting for. But as she stared at the door, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, waiting for them to make their move. Are we ready for this? Jackson asked, his voice low but filled with determination. He stood beside Alara, his arms crossed over his chest. He was usually the first to jump into action, but even he seemed to be feeling the weight of the situation. I think so, Alara replied, her voice steady despite the nerves churning in her stomach. We've come this far. We need to know what's inside. The signals, the symbols, the map, it all leads here. Zoe, the ship's engineer, glanced up from the console, her face tense. I've been scanning the door, Captain. It looks like it's sealed shut, but I don't think it's locked. It seems to be waiting for something, maybe a key, maybe a code. Whatever it is, it's not letting us in just yet. Alara frowned, stepping closer to the glowing symbols on the door. It's almost like it's calling to us. It's alive. I've got your back, Taro, the ship's medic, said from behind them, his voice calm. He had a reassuring presence, one that seemed to put everyone at ease, even in the most dangerous of situations. But we have to be careful. We don't know what kind of power is behind that door. Jackson turned to Alara, raising an eyebrow. You're the expert. What's our next move? Alara looked at the door again, her eyes scanning the symbols. We need to try and decipher these patterns. They could be the key to unlocking the door. Zoe nodded. I could try running a system scan from here, but we might need to get closer to it to really understand what's going on. With a silent nod, Alara motioned for everyone to follow her. The crew stepped off the Odyssey and made their way to the door, their boots crunching softly on the rocky ground beneath them. As they approached, the door seemed to respond, the symbols glowing brighter, almost as if it was reacting to their presence. Zoe knelt in front of the door, her fingers brushing over the symbols, trying to make sense of the patterns. I'm not sure what these are, but it looks like the door is scanning us, she said. It's reading us. Jackson's eyes flicked to the glowing symbols. A scan? What for? Maybe it's trying to figure out if we're worthy to enter, Alara suggested, her voice thoughtful. Or maybe it's testing us. Testing us? Zoe's voice rose slightly in disbelief. What do you mean, testing us? Alara turned to face her, her eyes wide with the weight of what she was about to say. This door, this whole structure, it's not just a building. It's something more. It's alive, and it's been waiting for us. A strange silence hung in the air as the crew took in Alara's words. It was hard to believe, but there was no denying the truth of what they had discovered. Everything they had learned so far pointed to one conclusion. This was a place unlike any other, and they were standing on the edge of something extraordinary. Then let's not waste any more time, Jackson said firmly. Let's see what's behind that door. Zoe gave the console one last tap, and then the air seemed to vibrate with energy. The symbols on the door flashed, then faded away. The door opened slowly, revealing a dark, cavernous space beyond. The air felt different, almost electric, as the crew stepped into the unknown. They moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the vast chamber ahead. The walls were lined with strange machinery, flickering in and out of life. The room seemed to pulse with energy, as if it had been dormant for centuries, waiting for someone to come. Alara's heart pounded in her chest. This was it. This was the moment they had been waiting for, the moment that would change everything. She stepped forward, her eyes wide with awe as she took in the incredible sight before her. They were standing on the brink of a new discovery, a new chapter in humanity's journey through the stars. Let's move, Jackson said, his voice steady. We're not alone here. The crew stepped forward together, ready to face whatever secrets the room held. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, and the echoes of their footsteps rang out into the vast, empty space. Something told them that this was just the beginning. There was so much more to discover, so many more mysteries to unravel, and they were ready to face whatever came next. The crew stood in the center of the enormous chamber, their eyes wide with disbelief. As the door shut behind them, a low hum filled the air, and the strange machinery around them flickered to life. It was as if the room had been waiting for their arrival, waiting for them to activate it. Alara stepped forward cautiously, her eyes scanning every corner of the room. The walls were covered in ancient symbols, some glowing faintly, others barely visible in the dim light. It was clear they were in a place of great importance, a place that had been untouched for centuries. Do you see that? Jackson whispered, his voice barely audible. He pointed to a pedestal at the far side of the room. There, on top of it, was an object that glowed with a soft blue light. It seemed to pulse in rhythm with their heartbeats. Without saying a word, the crew began to move toward it, their steps slow and measured. They had no idea what they were about to uncover, but they knew one thing for sure. It was important. Alara reached out first, her fingers brushing the surface of the pedestal. As soon as she touched it, the blue light flickered, and a holographic map appeared in front of them. The map was detailed, showing countless star systems and planets they had never seen before. But there was one spot that stood out. A red dot blinked at the center of the map, pulsing like a heartbeat. It was far away, deep in the heart of uncharted space. "This is it," Ilera said, her voice trembling with excitement. "This is the place, the source of the signal." Zoe moved closer, her eyes scanning the map with curiosity. "But why is this place so important?" she asked, her voice full of wonder. "And who sent this message?" "I don't know," Ilera admitted. "But whatever it is, it's calling us. It's telling us to go there." The crew exchanged uncertain glances. The feeling of unease from earlier had only grown stronger. They had no idea what awaited them at the red dot, but it was clear they couldn't turn back now. This was their only chance to uncover the truth. "We have to go," Jackson said, his voice firm. "We can't leave without knowing what's out there. Whatever it is, we need to be ready." Taro, the medic, placed a hand on Jackson's shoulder. "We need to be cautious, Jackson," he warned. "We don't know what we're dealing with. It could be dangerous." "I know," Jackson replied, his gaze fixed on the map. "But we've come this far. There's no turning back now." Zoe nodded in agreement. "Let's do it. We've been chasing this mystery for too long. It's time to find out the truth." Ilera stepped back from the pedestal, her heart racing. The map was now locked into their system, and the coordinates were set. "The Odyssey is ready," she said, turning to face the crew. "We just need to get there." The crew moved quickly to prepare the ship. Zoe began checking the systems, making sure the engines were running at full power. Taro made sure the medical supplies were stocked and ready for anything. Jackson stood at the helm, watching as Ilera ran through her final checks. They were all ready for the journey, but the tension in the air was palpable. None of them knew what awaited them, but they all knew it was something important. As the Odyssey lifted off from the surface of the planet, Ilera couldn't help but look back at the ruins, now shrinking in the distance. The door had closed behind them, and there was no turning back. They were heading into the unknown, toward a place that held the answers to the universe's greatest mystery. "We're about to find out what's really out there," Ilera said, her voice filled with determination. "This is just the beginning." Jackson nodded, his eyes focused on the stars ahead. "Let's make sure we're ready for whatever comes next." The ship sped into the vastness of space, the red dot on the map their only guide. The crew sat in silence, each of them lost in their thoughts. They didn't know what they would find, but they were ready. They had to be. The unknown was waiting for them, and they were going to face it head-on. In the next chapters, the crew of the SS Odyssey ventures deeper into the unknown, following the mysterious red dot on the holographic map that promises to unveil the secrets of the universe. As they approach the uncharted space where the signal originated, strange things begin to happen. The ship encounters a dense energy field that disrupts their systems, forcing them to land on an unknown planet. The crew discovers an ancient, abandoned city beneath a frozen ice sheet, with signs of a long-forgotten civilization. As they explore the city, they uncover a hidden underground facility, but inside, they find something far more chilling than they could have ever imagined: a long-dormant alien species that begins to awaken. What was once thought to be a signal of discovery now feels like a warning, and the crew must make a life-or-death decision. Do they escape the planet or risk everything to uncover the truth? The clock is ticking, and the fate of the galaxy may rest in their hands. Will they make it out alive? Comment below if you're eager to listen to the next episode and find out what happens next. If you enjoyed Colony Beneath the Ice and want to read more thrilling sci-fi adventures, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Dive into epic battles, explore distant galaxies, and join brave heroes as they fight for survival against impossible odds. Don't miss out on the next chapter of humanity's struggle. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and become part of the journey. Together, we'll keep the last light burning. Subscribe now and let the adventure continue.